On today's show, we'll recap the Ottawa Senators' 4-1 loss to the Winnipeg Jets, which saw the Sens losing streak reach 5 games.
And we'll try to explain why it's not time to panic just yet.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller in our nation's capital. Today is Thursday, February 27th, and Pilsy, I'm not surprised, but I am still disappointed in last night's result.
Yeah, I mean, we came into that game knowing that it was going to be a tall task for the Ottawa Senators to try to get 2 points. Maybe even 1 point, Ross, would have been tough to do, especially when you compare the rosters of the number one team in the NHL and then the Ottawa Senators that are riddled with injuries to key players. But it could have been a lot worse. And I know that's probably not what Sens fans want to hear on your fifth straight loss and another one at home. But this could have gotten out of hand a lot more. And now that I've slept on it, Ross, and watched the condensed game, I actually think the Sens' effort was there. They just were simply outmatched. And a team like the Jets, when you allow them to have the lead, they can really shut things down and basically suffocated the Ottawa Senators in the third period. Like, they only had 2 shots in the entire third period. Like, there's just nothing happening there for the Sens offensively.
2 shots and none on a power play with 5 minutes left. Like, you have to generate, but that's where you feel the loss the most of Brady Tkachuk, Josh Norris, and Shane Pinto. We'll discuss in the final segment, who do you need, want, and wish could come back soonest out of those 3. But for now, we're just wrapping up a game of mistakes. And we know that's what hockey is. But in the first period especially, I felt like the Sens were buzzing out of the gate. They had the first 5 shots in the game. They earned themselves an early power play after Logan Stanley, the Leaf Eater, went after Artem Zub after a clean hit on Mark Scheifele. Where that's a dangerous play for Mark Scheifele, trying to get out of the way and dragging his back leg.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Ross. Like, I was saying that if Zub wanted to hit Scheifele there, he could have crushed him. But
he could have done exactly what Tanner Jeannot did to him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's not the malicious type of player Zub is. So, I mean, Scheifele gets out of the way there, but if Zub wanted a piece of him, he could have had the whole thing, and that could have been a lot worse. I get Stanley. That's your top guy. You want to show you stick up for him, especially as like a bottom pair big defenseman. That's kind of your role. But good on Zub just to not get baited into taking that extra penalty and giving the Ottawa Senators a power play there.
We always say Artem Zub's like a big teddy bear. He gave him the old teddy bear hug.
That's basically what happened. Yeah. And I mean, Zub's a big guy, but Logan Stanley's got some size on him. Let's just say that.
And it felt like, I texted my brother-in-law, Adam, I said, are the Jets going to fight after every clean hit tonight or what? Because then a few minutes later, we saw a patented, this might have been Tyler Kleven's biggest hit in the NHL. You saw it perfect right across from you. What was the feeling along the boards when he made that connection?
Yeah, so it was on the other side of the board, but it was in my end. And yeah, that was a big hit that he laid down. The K train choo-choo was in the station there. But hey, you got to give it to Adam Lowry, though. Like, as a captain, again, that's kind of his role. Like, he's not the captain where he's got the letter because he scores goals or anything like that, although he is a decent offensive player. He's got to stick up for his teammates when he feels is necessary. And Tyler Kleven got a taste of Adam Lowry there. Let's just say that.
Yeah, he got a taste, and I'm sure a few ice bags afterwards. Now, Kleven ended up leaving the game with a lower body injury, so wasn't the absolute beatdown he took. And look, credit to Tyler Kleven for standing in there. It wasn't like Logan Stanley where the eject button went off. I respect that about Lowry. He squared up and said, like, let's go. Let's do this. And good on Tyler Kleven for obliging and dropping the gloves first. That's why there was no instigator on that play, whereas Logan Stanley had the extra 2 for roughing. But we say mistakes, and there was a big one from the superstar trying to do a little too much there, putting a backhand feather pass right onto the stick of his opponent. And I understand why Jensen and Chabot left the zone. It was a pretty clear breakout at that point for a guy who is a one-man breakout in Tim Stützle. But they left Cole Perfetti all alone back door.
Yeah, I mean, I'm putting this one on Timmy more than Chabot and Jensen, because Chabot made an excellent defensive play, getting his stick down to break up a 2-on-1 pass from Nemesnikov, and then Timmy got it. And that's just your instinct, Ross. Timmy has it. That puck's getting out of there. Timmy's one of the fastest guys on the team. He transitions the puck quick. So the defensemen are like, let's push. We got numbers here. Let's make a real effort to get an odd man rush here. And it's unfortunate because Timmy fans on the puck first. That's where the issue is he fans on it, and then he panics. And when he fans on it, the guy's already gone, and then he's panicking, and he doesn't know what to do. So he just does a backhand no-look pass off the boards, and it's a bang-bang play. You got to give credit to Nikolai Ehlers for a heads-up right on his tape, slings it towards the net, and Perfetti gets a good deflection. But yeah, it's those kinds of small mistakes that if you make that, a team like the Jets is going to capitalize on it.
And not only capitalize once, but they capitalize on the second mistake too. And that one was Linus Ullmark not being able to track his rebound. It was just sitting there waiting for someone to come and knock it home. And Mason Appleton's the guy that does it.
That was really tough to watch, Ross. I was right there, and just seeing it sit there and Ullmark just frozen, waiting for a whistle. But also, and I'm not going to put a lot of blame on Matin Palo here, but that's a play where Matin Palo tries to kind of shelter the puck and allow Ullmark to cover it, but Ullmark has no clue where it is. So I would have rather, instead of Matin Palo try to shelter with his body and use a backhand to put it into the pads a little more. If you see that puck sitting there and your goalie doesn't know it, just whack it out of there in any direction. Just force it out of there. And he doesn't do it on that play, unfortunately.
So that one's tough on Linus Ullmark. You just need a save there. But ultimately, Ullmark settled down heavily after that. The Jets had 18 shots against him in the second period, just got the one goal, and it was at the end of a complete breakdown by Travis Hamonic letting an easy rush in, and then they were in a turnstile in their own zone, and Winnipeg had about 4 good opportunities and finally made them pay. But within the minute, Thomas Chabot scored his 5th goal of the year from Tim Stützle, and Shabby can pick corners, man. That one was right in front of you. That was a beautiful shot. So that at that point, I tweeted, I said, I would do nasty things to get 1 point here. Just 1 point. Give us a comeback win, but it was not meant to be, and the Senators just could not get anything going in the third period. So unfortunate result for sure, Pilsy, but like you said, the effort was there. The media scrums after the game, Travis Green, David Perron, and
Linus Ullmark and Thomas Chabot.
Yeah, and Chabot too. I mean, Ullmark is pretty down on his game, mentioning it's all right, but all right isn't good enough in this league. Chabot's big quote was, "We need to figure this out and fast." And Travis Green said, look, disappointing, but he felt like the effort was there. And Perron was saying how he felt like they were doing good things and that can build into points here soon. Now, one good thing they did was the PK against the league's top power play, a 4-minute penalty, 2 minor penalties in separate plays on the same shift for Matin Palo. He sits, then Sanderson goes off. So 2 of your penalty killing defensemen are in the box, 2-minute 5-on-3. And this is where Linus Ullmark was at his best.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe I was a little hard on Ullmark in the postcast just because that second goal just really did not look good to me. And I didn't love the aggressive poke check he had on the third goal that kind of put him out of position. But overall, I mean, he has a .946 save percentage, and he did come up with some big saves and was pretty consistent. So I think that's good at least, but it's tough when it amounts to another loss. Like Ross, Linus Ullmark hasn't won a game in, I think I was reading Julian McKenzie's article in The Athletic, and it was 60 days or something. It's been a long time now. Obviously, there's an injury mixed in there, but yeah, I think he settled into his game a little bit more, and that was huge. But that penalty kill really got the building going. Like that was one of those moments where in the second period that everyone was kind of like, oh no, like we're already down here, and now we're giving the league's top power play an extended power play with Matthew Powell getting the 2 and then Sanderson getting one on top of that, and now it's going to be a long 5-on-3. Like, I think people in the building kind of thought if they score 1 here, this whole game is over. And the Sens PK shuts them down, and you think, okay, that's a huge momentum boost. Now let's turn it around on offense, and they weren't able to get it done. I mean, Connor Hellebuck is he's the top goalie in the league for a reason.
I mean, Crooker just missed wide, though. Puck just squeaked by the post. So unfortunate. And the Sens lose 4-1. They get outshot 39-25, including 27-13 in the final 2 periods after a tie 12-12 in the first. And even that first period, the first 15 minutes, I think it was 12-5 for Ottawa. Heck, Travis Hamonic had 6 shot attempts in the first period.
And some of them were hitting the net, Ross.
Well, and others went for goals the other way. That second goal was off a missed shot, rushed the other way, and it's in the back of your net. But it's not time to panic yet. After the break, we'll explain why. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by new sponsor, Ross. New sponsor alert.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. Hey, if you're excited like Ross about this new sponsor, you should be, because if you're like me, your mornings have to start with a great cup of coffee. But I get tired of settling for those grocery store brands. They're just bland. You're sick of them. They weren't cutting it. That's why I turned to our new sponsor, Trade Coffee. And let me tell you, this coffee's next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee marketplace in the U.S., bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste tested thousands of coffees, curating over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or you know exactly what you like, they'll handpick the perfect match for you. And what I love, Ross, is they have a quiz. You can go on their website and take a quick quiz. Only takes a minute, and they're going to match you with the roast. I took the quiz, and my roast was the Midnight Oil, comforting and rich. The roasting wizards at Anodyne are developing a delicious roasty flavor of Midnight Oil, but they're not burning it. That's the roast that I got paired with doing the quiz, and you can check out what pair works best for you. And they have a subscription service, so you know your coffee's coming in regularly when you need it. No more last-minute grocery store runs or settling for whatever's on the shelf. And if you don't love your first bag, no worries. Trade will replace it for free until they get it just right. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 40% off your first order at drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL. That's drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL for 40% off your first order. drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our very good friends over at Farm to Fork. It's a local premium meat and seafood company delivering it right to your door. If you're a fan of premium, locally farmed meats delivered straight to your door, we got exciting news from an all-Canadian brand serving Canadian products. Farm to Fork makes it easy to get high-quality steaks, air-chilled chicken, wild-caught seafood, and more, all with no antibiotics, hormones, or GMOs. Pilsy's at Castle Levitan right now, and that freezer is stocked up with the burgers, the chicken thighs. Everything is so delicious at Farm to Fork. Farm to Fork's meats, they're top-notch. I eat them all the time. Whenever I can, I get their air-chilled chicken. So fresh, flavorful, because it's hand-cut at the butcher's table and then flash-frozen in individual vacuum-sealed packages for your convenience and freshness. Wild-caught seafood, that's a game changer. Remember last trip to Ottawa, Pilsy, we had the scallops, fresh, clean, and full of flavor. They're delivering all across Ontario and Western Quebec. And the best part, delivery's free with a minimum order of $199. You don't even have to leave your house to get this quality. And we got a special code for you. Use LOCKEDON40 for $40 off your first order at Farm to Fork. That's farm2forkdelivery.ca with the number 2, farm2forkdelivery.ca, and start stocking up on the best meats around. That's code LOCKEDON40 LOCKEDON40 for $40 off your first order. Farm to fork, delicious, locally farmed meats from Canada, delivered straight to your door. All right, Millsy. So, 5-game losing streak in the rear view mirror. We are announcing that Saturday's game is a must-win game over the San Jose Sharks. If they lose that game, I'll allow panic. But right now, it's time to regroup. You're 2 points out of a playoff spot. Everybody's played the same amount of games. And the team you're chasing, Pillsy, you play them 3 times, Sens Jackets, later this season. It's not over. I know people see it's over. They see a 5-game winning streak, and we're like, oh, are we going to win the division? And then we see a 5-game losing streak, and can James Higgins play next season in the NHL? There's no in-between right now, Pillsy. How are you trying to compartmentalize what you've seen in the last 5 games and not allowing it to affect your thoughts on the next 24?
Well, Ross, right off the bat, I want everybody to know I did not bring the panic button along on my trip. The panic button, I didn't even bring it. It's at home, back in the drawer at my desk. So let's all take it easy. But I'll take it up a notch, Ross. Not only is Saturday's game a must win, it's a must blowout win. Like you got to be hitting puck line at least. Like I want to see 4 or 5 goals scored. I want to see Linus Ullmark have a big game. You got to put Ullmark back in there. He needs to figure out his game and build his confidence, and he needs to be a guy that gets the next win for the Ottawa Senators. And we need to see the offense pick up here, and we need to see at least one of the injured 3 come back, and we'll get into that more later. But I think the reason, Ross, that we're holding off on the panic now, and maybe Sens fans feel like I'm a broken record here, but we have to look at the strength of schedule the Sens have, all the home games they have. Yes, it's disappointing they lost to the Habs at home recently. Obviously, we didn't have high hopes for this game up against the Jets, but still disappointing yet. No points yet again. But you're right in this race, and it sucks that they're not the ones leading the pace of the race, Ross, like they were a little while ago in the top wildcard spot. But we're 2 points out of a playoff spot here, and only 4 points separate the Ottawa Senators, excuse me, and the Detroit Red Wings. But that's not to say other teams are in the same scenario with the New York Rangers and Boston Bruins, both with 62 points as well. And then we kind of thought the Habs and the Flyers were long in the rear view mirror, Ross, but it's more like they're in the side view mirror, and objects in that mirror are closer than they appear because they're only 3 points back from the Sens now, both of those teams. So things are tight right now, but the ice is tilted in the Ottawa Senators' favor if they can get healthy and figure things out.
And we're also looking at tonight, we've got the Montreal Canadiens playing the San Jose Sharks, right? So that's something that if you're a Sens fan, you're like, okay, hopefully the Sharks have a good game tonight and then leave that mojo with them in La Belle Provence. So it is tight. And if you told the Sens fan at the start of the season, they'd be 2 points back of a playoff spot with 24 games left, I think they'd take it. But when you see that L5 next to the streak and everybody around you is win 2 in a row or at least get points in 2 in a row, like every single team around them, Detroit, Columbus, and the Rangers, all ahead of Ottawa, all won their last 2 games. The Boston Bruins tied with Ottawa, but Ottawa has a game in hand. They've got 2 straight overtime losses, and then Montreal and Philly win 2, win 3 in a row. So everybody around them is winning, which just it puts a highlighter on the losing streak for the Ottawa Senators. They have to get out of this Saturday. There's no way around that. They've played Washington really well this season so far. In both games, they hung with the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. They'll have to do that again on Monday. And then they got the Chicago Blackhawks. That's all they've got before the trade deadline, Pillsy. That's it. And then it's the Rangers, who you're in a race with. Then it's the Wings, who you're in a race with. Then it's the Flyers. Who knows where they'll be by then. And then it's the Boston Bruins, and then the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then the Montreal Canadiens. This stretch of hockey is where you'll be able to either panic or start to feel better about where the Sens are. Last night, it was the Sens were big time underdogs, and rightfully so. These next games, Eastern Conference opponents, a lot of which that you are directly competing for, this is the time where you have to be ready to go. And I'm starting to think that the organization looked ahead at what that next stretch of schedule is when making the decision to keep Norris, Pinto, and Tkachuk out of last night's game.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. Like, the 2 points are 2 points. They're heavy. They're important, but 2 points up against the Winnipeg Jets are not as important as the stretch coming here. So if you give your guys a little extra rest and that allows them to be better prepared for those games, that's huge. And Ross, also all those Eastern Conference and division rival games you mentioned coming up, those are going to be after the trade deadline. So like at that point, it's like,
that's your group.
That's your group. But also teams have made it clear to their fan base, to their players, and to the rest of the league where they think they stand based on the moves they make at the deadline, right? Like Detroit is a team I'm looking at that they have the opportunity to really make big pushes and big moves in the deadline, especially with that cap space cleared up from Andrew Kopp being on LTIR and moving Ville Husso. They've got picks, prospects. They're able to make big moves at the deadline. And there's going to be other teams that see this year as a good year for them. And it's kind of going around in NHL circles online. Draft prospect analysts are kind of saying 2025 is a weaker draft class. So I think teams are going to be more inclined to trade their first round or even second round picks this year for rentals. And it's a seller's market. Like there's not a lot of options. And if you want to be the team that acquires guys at the deadline, you're probably going to be in a bidding war. And unfortunately, Ross, the Ottawa Senators pockets are kind of empty here when it comes to auction time.
The thing with the Sens, though, is, yeah, trade would be great, but you can easily pick out, watching the game on TV, which players have more to give. And if those talented, making between $4 and $5 million players are going to start producing some offense for you, it might alleviate some of the pressure of going out and making a big trade. Obviously, the injuries as well. On the other side, we'll look at the out-of-town scoreboard tonight, a little cheering guide for the Ottawa Senators, and wrap up with need, want, wish. Who are the most important absences that are facing the Senators right now? You're listening to Locked On Sens, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on that than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss that opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Check out all their promos too. You can usually find parlay profit, percentage boosters, and fun new bets. And whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, never feel like I missed my chance. And the app is so easy to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. So right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, Pilsy. So the Ottawa Senators, 2 points out of a playoff spot, and they will sit idle over the next couple of days. Now, Friday is always a light night in the NHL schedule, only 3 games tomorrow, but the Rangers are playing against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we're cheering for a Rangers loss tomorrow, but there's one game in particular tonight that stands out above all others. The Detroit Red Wings are hosting the Columbus Blue Jackets. That means somebody's getting points. And if you think that's bad, Pilsy, I got even worse news for you. On Saturday or Sunday this weekend, the Detroit Red Wings are playing the Columbus Blue Jackets again. That's the outdoor game at Ohio State. So what's the perfect result? Them each getting 1 win over the next 2 days? Or would you prefer Detroit, who's 2 points ahead of Columbus right now, to win both and put a little gap between them? That means that only one spot really is available in the wild card for now, but you're not getting both teams further away.
Ross, a verbal meme. This is the cartoon sketch of a train is going down the line and there's 2 tracks and you're the person that decides which track it goes on. One of them has like 3 people laying on the track and one of them has like 4, and you have to decide what you're supposed to do there. But I hate to do this, Ross, but I think you want Columbus to lose both of those games. Like I mentioned, I think Detroit is going to be poised to make big moves at the deadline. I think they're already kind of in a spot where, although they do have a tough strength of schedule, so we'll see how it goes for them down the stretch. But for me, Ross, I'm not trying to get 2 wild card positions for the Ottawa Senators. I'm just trying to get 1. And if it has to be the last one, we haven't had the playoffs in 7 years, Ross. If the Ottawa Senators have to sneak into the last playoff spot with 1 point on game 82, I will take that every day of the week. Just get in, baby, and then figure it out from there. And plus, I kind of like the matchup of Sens versus Washington more than if the Florida Panthers are the team that would play the first wildcard team. And it pains me to say it. I don't like to see a division rival, especially the Red Wings, have success. But I do think that is the mindset approach you have to have here.
The Red Wings are 17-5-2 under new head coach Todd McLellan.
Yeah, that was an amazing move for them. And it's kind of crazy that Todd McLellan was just sitting there waiting for a job. Like, that is a good, seasoned, massive resume head coach that was just available for a team.
I'm going to agree with you. I want the Red Wings to win both of those games against the Blue Jackets and then go on a big losing streak afterwards.
Yeah, sure.
Because then their next 3 games are Utah, Washington, Ottawa, then Buffalo, Carolina, Vegas, Washington, Vegas, Utah, Colorado, Ottawa. Like, they're playing all teams that don't matter in the race. It's almost opposite, other than Ottawa, of course, and then the Sens control their own destiny in those games. So I'm with you. I think Detroit is the team we're rooting for both these games, home and home, kind of, because Ohio State's not Columbus's home, but it will be a home game for them in that one.
But those, nice, you figured that one out. Those Columbus Blue Jackets stadium jerseys are sick, though. I don't understand why they don't incorporate the cannon as like their main logo and rally around that. So
yeah,
that is cool that they figured out a good Stadium Series jersey.
All right, Pillsy. Need, want, wish. Brady Tkachuk, Josh Norris, and Shane Pinto. I think we can start with the need because I'd imagine we've got the same guy for that.
Well, first, I just want to preface this new segment. We were trying to think of
segment alert.
Yes, so we were trying to think of a PG version to do this, and I came up with need, want, wish. So we're talking about 3 injured players. Who do we need the Ottawa Senators to come back? Who do we want the Ottawa Senators to come back? And then finally, a little more in the distance, who do we wish would come back? So it's almost ranking them 1, 2, and 3 in importance of them returning to the lineup. Are we gonna say our need player on a 3-2-1, and we'll say it at the same time? Or do you have confidence in this?
3, 2, 1. Brady Tkachuk.
Okay. Yes. That is the correct answer in my opinion. This team needs to score goals. Brady Tkachuk leads the team in goals. This team needs their leader back. And I don't want to dog too hard on the team because when you're down players, you're playing 11-7, and there's call-ups coming and guys moving parts all over the place. It's hard to kind of hold that culture and that identity. That's where a captain comes in place, and that's where you need him to be like, all right, guys, I'm back. I'm righting the ship. He's the skipper of the boat, right? He steers the ship the way he wants it to go, and everybody follows along. And look, we love Crooker, and I think he did a good job, Ross, but when your top line left winger is a guy you just called up from the AHL, that's not great for your NHL roster. So getting Brady Tkachuk back as that number 1 left winger is huge. Playing that physical game. And I honestly, Ross, it's the off-ice intangibles that Brady brings are almost as important as the on-ice stuff he brings. So I'm glad both of us went Brady there.
I mean, he's the emotional leader of this team. He shoots the puck more than anybody else, almost in the entire league. He brings everyone into the battle. I don't think it's far-fetched to say that this is a complete lock that Brady Tkachuk is the most important absence right now for the Ottawa Senators. But that said, they did lose 3 games before he left when he was in the lineup and the other 2 weren't. So I think this is where it gets really interesting. Who is your next most important absence, Bills?
Are we going to say this on the same time as well?
No.
I think we might have different answers.
We might.
My want is Josh Norris.
Different answers.
Okay, different answers. So I'll defend my case first. Again, this team needs goals. Josh Norris, this guy's second on the team in goals for the Ottawa Senators. And he's a guy that when he's feeling it, he's shooting the puck. They need to get him activated on the power play in his office with that one-timer. And unfortunately, Ridley Gregg is not at a spot where he can elevate his game to be a proper second-line center. And that's not a knock on Ridley Gregg. He's still a young player, and that's a tall task for anyone. But he's not able to elevate his game to be a second-line center. I do believe that he can elevate his game to be a third-line center. So that's where if Shane Pinto slots in as a third-line center, I think Ridley Gregg in a small sample can take over that role and do it justice. But for me, you got to get Josh Norris back. I believe that will also activate Drake Batherson. Those two are typically on a line together. And if you can get his centerman back, hopefully that brings some familiarity and some chemistry for Drake Batherson. So for me, my want player is Josh Norris.
I respect it, and I understand the argument for it. And when you go to Josh Norris, he just has that quick strike offense, and that's definitely something they missed. I'm going with Shane Pinto because of the all-around impact that Shane Pinto has on a game. And not to mention, since the Carolina game, you can even go back to during Shane Pinto's 19-game pointless drought. You can go about halfway through that, and he's got more points than Josh Norris over that stretch. Like he's been producing ever since the 2 goals against Carolina on the road in that 3-0 win where Nick Jensen had the other one. He's got 19 points and 10 goals in his last 26 games, Shane Pinto does. Whereas for Josh Norris, since that Carolina game, he only played 22 games. He's missed 4 more than Shane Pinto during this stretch. He's got 7 goals and 12 points. So he's got 7, or math guy here, 5 less points. No, 7. I was right the first time. 7 less points than Shane Pinto in 3 less games. But where it really jumps off the page, and I know plus minuses and everything, but when one guy's -1, the other guy's plus 13, which is among the team best, it's just he impacts the game defensively. He impacts the game more, I would say, on the PK, although Josh Norris is a perfectly fine penalty killer. They're both important players. It is splitting hairs here a bit, but what really kind of set the differentiator for me is when Shane Pinto has a point, the Sens are 16-1-0 this year. When Josh Norris has a point, they're 16-4-1. So it's still good, but it's not at the elite level that Shane Pinto is. The record when Pinto's in the lineup this year is 26-16-4. When Josh Norris is in the lineup, it's 27-19-4. So not a wild difference. Norris has played a few more games, has 1 more win, 3 more regulation losses, but I just think Pinto's so valuable in slotting everybody else where they need to be. So I go Shane Pinto as my want.
All right. Yeah, that's fair. And I also hear your arguments. And plus, if the vibes are down, getting Shane Pinto back, that's a vibes guy. He's going to bring the vibes back up. So that's a good answer. But Ross, and we can debate this, and people let us know your comments on YouTube and at Sens Central on Twitter. But I really think both of us made good arguments, and I think we're neck and neck. But for me, the deciding factor is who gets Batherson going.
Yeah.
Right? I think both those guys bring things to the team. The stats you mentioned, Pinto had the edge in most of those, but it was close. It wasn't astronomically in his favor. For me, it's how do you figure out a way to get Drake Batherson back on track? So let's hear what the people think. Does Norris activate Batherson better, or does Shane Pinto, in your opinion? I mean, we hope both of them come back, and it doesn't matter either or. But if that's the case, because who would you put on that second line when Pinto returns, Ross?
Well, I mean, it depends if they both return.
But if just one of them returned and it was Pinto, how would you line it up?
I'd probably just put him between Perron and Batherson. But I'm a little hesitant to have Perron and Batherson together, because the two of them have struggled mightily so far this season. I'm just looking at Batherson's numbers with each of those guys this year. It's just like he's got so much skill. And he did have, I thought he played better as the game went on. He had, I think, a good third period. They moved him on to a different line. And would you look at that? It worked, because when he was on with Greg and Perron, they were getting torched in last night's game at 5-on-5. Torched, I think, would be even like a nice way of putting it. When those guys were on the ice at 5-on-5, and by the way, the line that had the most ice time at 5-on-5 last night for Ottawa was Gaudette, Highmore, and Amadio.
Really?
The Greg Perron Batherson had 3 shot attempts for and 13 against. They were on the ice for 1 goal against as well, an expected goals percentage of 31 and a Corsi percentage of 18%. But then when they moved Batherson onto a line with Giroux and Stützle, they had much better success. Now, albeit in less than 3 minutes of ice time, but I'm hoping that they move Batherson off of the line with Ridley Gregg. It's just not working much for me. The best line, and albeit again just in a little bit of time, was Greg Perron, Highmore, 4 shot attempts for, none against in the game. But they're all important pieces. And Pillsy, I think I can bring it to this now. I am not putting a guarantee. I will be absolutely shocked if all 3 of them are not in the lineup on Saturday. I think all 3 of them play.
All 3?
Yeah. Expect Cruikshank and Yannick to be sent down later today. And then it's go time with the group they have. Now, the guy, I'm actually more worried about Tyler Kleven missing another game here. And I know it's not the end of the world if a bottom pair guy misses a game, although, buddy, our 100%ers are dropping like flies. First, it was Brady Tkachuk. There were 5 players on the Sens that have played every game this year. Brady Tkachuk was one of them. He misses a couple games now. And then Tyler Kleven was another one. So that leaves, who's the third guy? It's Giroux, Batherson for sure, and Tim Stützle.
Timmy, yep.
That's it. Yeah, Stützle, Batherson, Giroux, and Kleven have played all 57 games so far. And Tyler Kleven,
58.
hopefully, according to Travis Green, will play on Saturday. But yeah, I think all 3 of those guys come back. Tkachuk, Norris, Pinto.
Hey, I love the optimism, but Shane Pinto was recently still in a non-contact jersey. You think in a couple days it's going to change?
He wore a contact jersey yesterday, albeit it's an optional morning skate, so is there much contact to begin with? But yeah, I think all 3 of them are back. And we can finally go 12-6, 12 forwards and 6D.
12-6, the coveted 12-6.
Remember the days. You know the Sens are 5-0 in their last 5 games, going 12-6 for the whole game.
What a coincidence. Yeah, I hope you're right, Ross, and I love the optimism. I'm going to guarantee 2 of them come back, and I'm hopeful that 3 of them come back. But yeah, they need to just beat the wheels off the Sharks. Like this needs to be like, we can't have a 2-1 overtime win,
or a win like they had in San Jose, where they get outshot humongously and sneak out a win. I mean, 2 points is 2 points. I won't complain, but I think for the morale of this team, it needs. I'm hammering the first period money line for the Sens 3-way.
Big time, yeah. With our friends over at FanDuel, yeah, absolutely.
By the way, Mullet Man Jay Trepanier nailed the anthem. He crushed it.
Oh man, he's solid. Yeah, I got a lot of respect for that guy. So they should bring him around more often.
Yeah, when Lyndon can't do it, obviously we respect the goat around here, Lyndon Slewage. Hopefully he's in the building for a Saturday night matchup. Sens Sharks. We'll be boots on the ground. I'm literally going to the airport right now. I'm probably in the air. The fact I'm taking a Winnipeg Jet to Ottawa kind of feels tough today after last night.
Yeah, you should drive, you coward.
Yeah, like Jarvis's buddies.
Yeah. It's easy.
Solo 30 hours. I wouldn't be there by tonight, though. And we got things to do, places to be, people to see. Cannot wait to get to the nation's capital. I haven't been back since the home opener. So It's been a while, and I love home. Home is Ottawa, and I cannot wait to see the beautiful nation's capital. Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Well, yeah, I'm excited for you to get here too. It's a little lonely being in Chateau Levitan all by myself. So it'll be good to have you back here. Final thoughts for me, Ross, is nothing worse than when a franchise comes into your building, 10-game win streak, and then they bump it to 11. And then just to kick you in the teeth a little bit more, they let you know that they beat you in the AHL as well. The Manitoba Moose and Belleville Senators were playing a rare night where NHL franchises and AHL franchises are facing off.
Especially cross-conference.
Yeah, especially because the Moose are not in the Belleville's conference. And the Moose are not a good team either. They're last in their division, and they get the 3-2 overtime win over the Belleville Senators that are fighting for their playoff lives in the North Division. So that's just when Belsey thought he was going to get a full lineup, they come and take Unique and Crookshank, and Merrilainen did not play in last night's game. Subban was in. It was 3-2 was the final score in overtime, but unfortunate for sure. And guess what? They went 11-7. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that's so brutal.
We're trying to rewrite hockey. 11-7, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, it's a copycat league. Maybe we'll convince other teams to do it.
Yeah, maybe. Or we could just go 12-6 and win some hockey games. Enjoy the rest of the day. We got a big one for you tomorrow. A couple big shows coming up in the next little while here on Locked On Sens. Tomorrow will be a boots on the ground episode. I love that. I got the Roadcaster packed. The flight is on time. We'd love to see that. I'll see y'all on Saturday at the Glebe Central Pub. Get your tickets. There are still shuttle tickets available. We will be there from about 1 o'clock on. The bus leaves at 5:45. So we've had some people say, hey, I need my car after the game, whatever the case may be. I'll come by, have lunch, or come see you. You do not have to be on the shuttle to come hang out with us at the Glebe Central Pub. But of course, it's encouraged because the vibes are immaculate on the shuttle. I'm already just envisioning how good of a time we're going to have here. Pillsy, what's our record? We'll figure it out for tomorrow. But our boots on the ground record overall is 15-2-1 or 16-2-1 because we got the home opener win. It was no. That was the 15th because I'm looking back. The photo we posted with our ladies on Insta, that was 2 games ago. In Ottawa, and we were 14-1-1. So after last year, we're 14-1-1. So we're 15-2-1 together based on the start of the season. We went 1-1. However, our 2 regulation losses together are at Minnesota and at Montreal. So in Ottawa, we have a sparkling boots on the ground record, and I don't expect it to change on Saturday.
No, me neither. I'm feeling good. And for people that aren't familiar with the Glebe Central Pub shuttle, if you're thinking, if you want to get to the game earlier than the shuttle goes, that's fine. But I swear to God, I don't know how a big yellow school bus does it, but Sue, the bus driver, will get you there quicker than an Uber or you driving on your own. I don't know how it works. Don't ask me how it works, but
I think there's a bus lane on the highway. So you're just waving at everybody else stuck in traffic.
Well, you solved the mystery, Ross. Great job. Because I've had people be like, "Oh, I didn't want to take the shuttle because I was worried like a bus isn't going to get there in time, so they took an Uber." And we're passing them on the highway. See you later, and we're having good vibes. So believe in the Glebe Central Pub shuttle, my friends,
and believe in Farm to Fork. This episode was brought to you by Farm to Fork. Use code LOCKEDON40 for $40 off your first order. Farm to Fork Delivery. That's the number 2. Farm2forkdelivery.ca. All made in Canada products delivered to your door. All right, Pillsy, great show today. Time for me to get to the airport. I got my Sens jersey packed, ready to rock and roll for a fantastic weekend ahead. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. It means a lot to us. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.